All right, today we are diving into one of the wildest rags to riches stories you'll ever hear. Seriously, it's got everything. A worker who's being exploited, a super cunning strategy, and this just explosive, almost impossible increase in wealth. So yeah, let's get right into it.
So this is really the heart of it all, right? How in the world does this guy, Jacob, who's been taken advantage of for years, completely flip the script on his manipulative boss, Laban? I mean, was it all just his own genius plan? Or was there something else, something bigger going on here?
Okay, so to really get how Jacob pulled this off, we first have to understand the game he was being forced to play. The whole thing kicks off with this really tense negotiation between a boss who absolutely does not want to lose his star employee, and that employee who is just desperate to go home.
I mean, can you even imagine working for someone for 14 years, basically just to pay off a debt? That was Jacob. He'd done his time, he'd fulfilled his end of the deal to marry Laban's daughters, and all he wanted was to take his family and get back to his homeland. But Laban? No way. He was not about to let his golden goose just walk away.
And this right here, this chart just lays it all out, plain and simple. You've got Jacob on one side, just trying to get some freedom, provide for his own family for once. And then you've got Laban, who is driven by nothing but pure greed. He knows Jacob is the reason he's so successful, and he is going to keep exploiting that for all it's worth.
And get this, Laban just flat out admits it. He actually says to Jacob, look, I know I've been blessed because you're here. This isn't some nice compliment, This is a confession. He's basically saying, you're not family to me, you're a financial asset, and I can't afford to lose you.
So faced with all this pressure and this manipulation, what does Jacob do? He doesn't just give in. No, he comes back with a counter offer. And it is this very strange, very cunning business deal that honestly, on the surface, looks like it's a massive win for Laban.
Okay, so here's the deal Jacob pitches. He says, tell you what, you keep all the solid white sheep, all the solid colored goats, the vast majority of the flock. All I want for my wages are the oddballs, the speckled ones, the spotted ones, the brown ones. Laban must have thought it was his lucky day. He gets to keep Jacob working for him for what seems like a tiny, tiny fraction of the new animals.
And this is where the strategy gets, weird and really interesting. Jacob starts doing this kind of bizarre form of selective breeding. He takes these tree branches, peels stripes into them, and then he sticks them in the water troughs right when the strongest, healthiest animals are coming to mate. See, the ancient belief was that whatever the mother saw during conception would actually affect how the baby looked. So the strongest animals see striped sticks and, what do you know? They start having more speckled and spotted babies. It's brilliant, really. He makes sure his flock is bred from the best of the best, while Laban's gets the leftovers.
So, the big question is, did this weird plan actually work? Well, what happens next is just staggering. This little trick doesn't just work a little bit. It works on an absolutely unbelievable scale.
The text puts it so simply, but it's so powerful. It just says, Jacob increased exceedingly. Talk about an understatement. This is not a small raise. This is a total economic earthquake. He goes from being a guy working for wages to an incredibly wealthy man in his own right.
And the story actually gives us the receipts. We're not just talking about a few extra sheep. We are talking about massive herds of livestock, a full staff of servants, and the ancient world's version of a fleet of luxury cars, camels and donkeys. He became ridiculously rich, and it all came from those speckled and spotted animals. Okay, but this brings us to the big question, doesn't it? I mean, selective breeding is a thing, for sure. But peeling some sticks and putting them in water, could that really cause such a huge genetic shift so fast? It just seems, it seems kind of unlikely. It feels like we're missing a pretty big piece of this puzzle. Was it really all just Jacob being clever? And that's because there was a hidden hand at work here. Years later, Jacob himself spills the beans on the real secret behind his miracle success. And it completely reframes everything we thought we knew about his clever plan.
And there it is. That's the twist. Years down the road, Jacob tells his wives that he had a dream. And in that dream, God told him directly that he was the one making this happen. He was the one taking the cattle from their father and giving them to Jacob. It wasn't just the sticks. Jacob gives all the credit to a direct divine intervention.
Now hold on. This doesn't mean Jacob's hard work and his clever plan meant nothing. Absolutely not. The idea here is that his human efforts were the vehicle that God used to accomplish his plan. So Jacob did the work, he was smart about it, but God was the one who provided the jaw-dropping results.
And this completely reframes the whole story as one of justice. You see, this wasn't just some random blessing like winning the lottery. It was a direct response to all those years Laban had exploited Jacob. The wealth was literally being redistributed from the one who was hoarding it unfairly to the one who had earned it all along. You know, this whole story is a perfect picture of a key principle you find elsewhere in the text. This idea that even our ability to work hard, our ability to be smart and create wealth is itself a gift. Jacob had the power to get wealth, sure, but the story's telling us that the ultimate source of that power was divine.
And that really leaves us with a fascinating question to chew on in our own lives, doesn't it? When we succeed, how much of that is our own sweat and strategy, and how much of it is just luck or providence or blessings that put the opportunity there in the first place? That's the tension at the heart of Jacob's story, and it's a question we are all still wrestling with today.